Welcome to The Persuasive Lawyer. I'm Brendan Lupitin, and today I'm super excited to have with me Pete Penteny. Pete is a partner with the law firm of Williams Ford based out of Virginia. Pete practices in Virginia, West Virginia, and Maryland, and you can read more about him at williamsfordlaw.com. So for more than 20 years, Pete has exclusively represented injured people and families in personal injury, wrongful death, and medical malpractice cases. Pete is a graduate of the Dickinson School of Law, where he was the editor-in-chief of the Dickinson Journal of International Law. After law school, Pete returned to his home of West Virginia, where he has been practicing ever since. Pete is an accomplished trial lawyer with expertise in particular in dram shop cases. Pete, in fact, was part of a trial team that obtained a $2.8 million jury verdict for a family of a young construction flagman who was struck and killed in a construction zone. That verdict is the largest wrongful death verdict in the history of Jefferson County. Pete has a ton of other impressive accomplishments, in particular, a recent amazing jury verdict in a motor vehicle case that he recently obtained during the pandemic, which is what we're here to really focus about today. We're going to talk all about Pete's experience trying a pandemic jury trial. Pete, thank you so much for letting me interview you here today.
Thanks for having me on, Brendan. I'm happy to be here.
Yeah, so Pete, would you mind telling, first off, just a little bit more about yourself and your practice generally?
Sure. We have a small three-lawyer firm in Leesburg, Virginia, which is sort of our home base of operations, although we handle cases quite a wide geographic range in West Virginia and all around Northern Virginia and into the Shenandoah Valley as well. We do only personal injury work, medical malpractice cases, and in West Virginia, I handle dram shop cases. So unfortunately, we can't do those in Virginia. Started out my career in a general practice firm where we did plaintiff's personal injury work, but I also was able to get involved in a lot of different other areas of the law, tried criminal cases, family law cases, a lot of different civil real estate litigation, will litigation, which has helped me a lot in my career, understanding the various aspects of personal injury cases. And now I focus solely on those.
Awesome. So as I said, we're here to talk about this recent jury trial verdict that caught my attention because I was actually preparing in August to try my own pandemic jury trial and was curious about anybody else that had tried cases and, what their outcomes were, because there, is so much uncertainty about trying a case during the pandemic. And a friend of mine, Chris Wallace, who practices in both PA and West Virginia, passed along to me your tremendous verdict. And I was really excited to hear about it. It was really motivating to me that, look, you can get a great verdict during the pandemic, and was really a ray of hope for me. So thanks for that. And I was wondering if you could give us a little bit of a summary, sort of a thumbnail sketch of what this case was about that you took to trial during the pandemic.
So I represented a guy that wouldn't be underselling it to say he was an American hero. He'd been a Marine Corps fighter pilot in the 80s, later became a commercial airlines pilot for United Airlines. He'd done a lot of things after 9/11 to help make the country safer, and was just driving home from bowling with some buddies when he was stopped at a red light. No other traffic around on the highway. Suddenly saw lights coming up behind him and got plowed from behind. The person who hit him was intoxicated. There were beer bottles on the floorboard of the car, which my guy took pictures of. The driver was a not English-speaking Mexican immigrant who was driving a company truck. Through the course of our investigation, we learned that this was his second DUI episode in a company truck for the same company. So our case was against both the driver and the employer for negligent entrustment. Our client's injuries were largely to his cervical spine. As a former fighter pilot, he had some degenerative disc disease that well pre-existed the crash. There was no debate about this. But the crash made it a lot worse. It had been largely asymptomatic before the crash, and after the crash, he was pretty limited in a lot of things. So it was kind of the classic trial of the before and after presentation of non-economic damages. Liability was contested at trial. So we got to have that fun with a drunk driver and an employer who knew about it. And the damages case was largely non-economic damages. We had some wage evidence. We had an economist and a vocational person to talk about that, but we didn't put the medical bills into evidence. We didn't put the future medical estimate for the surgery that was recommended into evidence.
Are you unanimous or is it 5-6?
Unanimous.
Ah, okay, got it. Did you lose any jurors during the course of your trial?
No, we were nervous about it. The judge kept 2 alternates just in case, but we, similar to what you've told me that you did in your case, we tried it really fast. I mean, we put on 16 witnesses, 4 experts in about 8 hours of trial time.
Wow.
Really trimmed the fat to make sure we were getting the point across. If there is any juror concerned about being there, I didn't want them to think that they were being held longer than necessary because of anything we did.
Now, was that intentional on your part going into the trial?
Yeah, that was the plan. That was the plan. It's probably a smart thing to do anyway most of the time, but we had a particular focus on it because of the pandemic. And the defense didn't put on a very long case either. It was a 3-day trial, including jury selection, with the last day going to about 8:30 in the evening waiting for the verdict. So,
and it was 3 days, including jury selection.
yeah, we started on a Tuesday morning and got the end of the verdict at about 8:30 on Thursday evening.